Let me say a few words on Hrdc Gauhati University. Established in the year of 1988, it's on the way of 35th years of its academic journey. It has given opportunity to teachers, academic administrators for various courses in many programs, and more than 30 teachers and academic administrators have trained so far. This is one of the remarkable milestones of this institute. At the time of establishment, it was within the 46 and alone in the northeastern states. And still it is one of the pioneer institute in the field of teacher education and training in the country. Unfortunately, in the last 2 years, because of COVID situation, we couldn't do with our full speed, but then we have switched on to online mode as far as the notification and the instruction from the UGC 1st July 2020. And with the help of the great university, Gauhati University, with which we are attached, we are able to deliver more than 20 teachers trained.
And this will be considered as a part of the celebration, Platinum Jubilee celebration. And I also would like to mention that RUSA has given us a special grant for the improvement of Hrdc facilities. So this is a peculiar one, a special one. Last year we have received quite a good amount from the RUSA to restructure, not exactly restructure, for improvement of the Hrdc infrastructure as well as course curriculum. So today's workshop is very much important because whatever is designed, it was necessary, particularly for the implementation of NEP 2020. Hopefully you know that it is already mentioned that NEP 2020 2020, but till today only discussions are going on. Though in certain states some amount of kind of implementation is started, but till today it is just on discussion part. Even I had the opportunity to take part in the both state level, regional level and country level discussions on implementation of the NEP 2020, but till today I have not seen any proper framework or proper guideline or roadmap is developed. Though many subways or it is half done. So the NEP, one of the main requirement today, what we have covered in the broad theme, that is institutional restructuring, holistic and multidisciplinary education. So this is one of the targeted goal or one of the main theme of NEP 2020. So now restructuring is required, okay, but what is restructuring, what they mean, what the NEP mean for institutional restructuring and consolidation particularly. So NEP 2020 intends to end the fragmentation of higher education. Till today what is going on, that is considered as a fragmentation. So thus it intends to end the fragmentation of higher education by transforming higher education institutions into large multidisciplinary universities and colleges. So basic aim is to create bigger institutions than what is available with minimum 3,000 students. That is one of the proposal. But how exactly we can achieve? Because see, in case of Gauhati, we have in Assam we have more than 600 affiliated colleges. Now around 19 state universities and many even we have autonomous colleges. So restructuring in real sense, in true sense, how exactly it will be possible? This is just a case of only Assam, but we consider all the country level. It will be really a big challenge to restructure the higher education institutions. So there are certain means, say you can give, for example, the college shall merging of the colleges, but that is also sometimes it may be difficult because they are located in different locations. Then be absorbed into another institutions. One institution is absorbed in another one. That may be possible. And or shall give up the legal identity to form a new corporation, or that all or substantially all of the facilities of the colleges shall be sold or leased to another entity. So these are some of the examples how we can go for the restructuring. Or that the college contracts with another educational or healthcare diverse delivery institutions to pool or combine facilities or faculties. So these are some of the possible or example how we can go for the restructuring. But today I think because you are the academic administrators and it is really good that 70 plus 70 people today gathered here. So you should really frame out, identify some of the methodologies, exactly how we can assure the restructuring of educational institutions or higher educational institutions that we have to develop. There is nobody that they will give you the instruction, do this way. We can develop our own method. I am also thinking that way in Gauhati University level, what exactly we can do. We are also giving suggestions to the advisor education and other higher education department. Also, we are framing out that part. By March 10, probably we will submit a proposal to the government, exactly what we feel for the implementation of the NEP, particularly in the Gauhati University situation.
I think this is one of the first initiatives being taken up by any university. So for that, I'd like to compliment Hrdc for having undertaken this exercise. Well, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor B.J. Hendik sir has already highlighted some of the facets of NEP, and he has also highlighted some of the challenges, the issues of institutional restructuring, and the implementation plan that we have in front of us. Well, I do not want to reiterate or I do not want to repeat what Hendik sir has talked about. But as I look at it, there are, essentially three ways to go about the implementation of NEP 2020, which I would like to call as the immediate, intermediary, as well as the long-term goals. So when I talk about immediacy in terms of, the preparation stage for the institutional redesigning. Well, it is as an advisor of the government of Assam, I am not necessarily confined only to higher education, but also in other dimensions. For example, the restructuring process in this 5+3+3+4, the institutional designing part has already started. And in fact, we have taken initiative for, integrating Anganwadi centers with our school education complex. And in addition to that, actually, in Assam, we have seen that we have 26,000 villages in Assam. And we have more than 42,900 plus primary, institutions in Assam, which is double the rate of our villages. Actually, as per RT, we need to have about one school in per village because our villages are not more than 1 kilometer. So from that perspective, we have doubled the numbers of primary institutions in Assam. That's what we actually need. And in Assam, we have one of the best PTR ratio in the country. In terms of till secondary education, Assam has one of the best people-teacher ratio. So that is why, in the light of this kind of more teachers and in terms of more primary institutions that we need, what we are trying to do is the amalgamation. We have already amalgamated in the first phase, about 30 to 40% institutions have been amalgamated, and some mergers have been taking, we are in the process of merging some of the institutions. For example, in Assam, we have plus 230 institutions with zero enrollment. It is a matter of fact that more than 200 primary institutions are with zero enrollment. From 1 to 10, another 100 plus institutions with 1 to 10, students enrollment. So what do we need to do with them? We have no way out but to restructure these primary institutions, secondary institutions, and this process is going on. And by 2023, the entire exercise of restructuring primary level and secondary level institutions will be over. And we are happy to inform this August gathering that by 2023, this plus 2, that is 10 plus 2, will be secluded, it will be excluded from the colleges. In 211 colleges, we have higher secondary, courses. More than 211 colleges. And this higher secondary will be delinked from 2023. So we'll have more secondary institutions which are coming up. So these are some of the institutional restructuring which is coming up. Pertaining to higher education, in the immediate goal, we need to go for introduction of liberal arts. As Sir has said, liberal art is not essentially a department, it's a philosophy. It's a way of, propagating 64 colours, if not all colours, but not at the cost of specialization. I don't think so that we are talking about, propagation of liberal arts or even holistic human being, but not at the cost of specialization. But what we see is that in the name of specialization, many of our new generation are unaware about some other skills. For example, in our days, I am from Sibsagar, our school was known as Hibohagar Bohumukhi Vidyalaya, multi-purpose school, where we haven't had the opportunity of that multi-purpose education, but we were told many of our seniors, they were trained in carpentry, they were trained in little bit of electricity, in some hands-on work, which gradually got substantially eroded in the later phase. So introduction of liberal arts is perhaps, we need more such exercise. We need more such workshops so that we can define how to introduce liberal arts in the days to come. This is an immediate goal. Then revamping curricula, revamping pedagogy is an immediate goal that we need to undertake. Then assessment and student support is another important dimension that we need to introduce. Then the 4 years degree course or +1 PG course, this is one such challenge that we need to think about immediately. You cannot wait for long. Karnataka has already introduced, I am told, and we are planning to visit Karnataka, how their UP has also initiated, Pondicherry has also initiated in terms of this kind of integrated course. So immediately these are some of the issues that we need to talk about. As intermediary and the transitional phase, we need to talk about development of faculty recruitment. We need to develop infrastructure and identifying those kind of areas where we can go for interdisciplinary dimension. For example, my idea is that I propose to establish one interdisciplinary department in each college. For example, we are talking about multidisciplinary institutions. So when we talk about multidisciplinary institutions, I believe that in many colleges we do not have science stream. In many colleges we do not have arts. Arts we have, we do not have commerce stream. So in the days to come, this will be a big challenge for the government of Assam to introduce all those schemes. We do not compartmentalize in between arts, science and commerce, but nevertheless, we need commerce, we need science stream, we need arts, as well as I also like to propose an interdisciplinary department in each college. What is this interdisciplinary department? For example, the emerging areas in science, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology. We cannot possibly have a separate department for biotechnology because we have paucity of fund. Yes, ideally we need new department, but immediately I do not think so that we have so much resources at the disposal of the government that we can immediately create biotechnology, immediately constitute artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, so on and so forth. Rather, we can propose for an interdisciplinary department where all these emerging areas could be clubbed together in each college. That is what I have already proposed to the government of Assam. And likewise in social science, we may have social work, public policy, governance, activist policy, foreign policy, strategic studies, security studies, etc. So these kind of interdisciplinary within social science can also be created in colleges. So these are intermediary, approaches that we need to adopt. And thirdly, all those goals are time specific. I do not believe that we need to attain all the objectives of new education policy, lock, stock and barrel within 1 year. No. We need to go phase wise. That is where Gauhati University need to grip that direction. The whole state of Assam is looking forward to Gauhati University, how it goes about. Because we have certain phases to be fulfilled. For example, by 2040, all HEI shall aim to become multidisciplinary institutions. Remember, by 2040, I think that is the timeline, Borbai. Then secondly, by 2030, at least we need to have one large multidisciplinary HEI in each or nearby district. So we have a timeline, 2030 or nearby. Then next, autonomous degree granting college, possibly, they will use the word possibly by 2035. Then we need to enhance GR to 50% maybe 2040. So we have a phase-wise goal to be achieved. It's not that we need to attain everything within 1 year, within 2 years. So that's why I would like to propose a kind of immediate goals, intermediate as well as long-term goals to be achieved. Well, having said so, what we need to attain in near future is the multidisciplinarity as institutions, academic bank of credit, multiple entry and exit, vocational and skill-based courses. We have specialists here who will talk about. Then reflection of Indian culture and tradition. Then giving due representation to our language, because I think that will be a big challenge for Northeast India. We have more than 270 ethnic groups, 185 languages. I'm not talking about dialects. So when you go, give representation to this multi-ethnic, multilinguistic society, how do you give representation? That is a big challenge. And how to restructure our professional or standalone institutions. Sir has talked about holistic human being. Holistic human being doesn't necessarily mean that he or she will sacrifice her, or his skill. So without sacrificing skill that one possesses, how to develop holistic human being is a big challenge for us. Do I have 10 minutes more, sir? Yes. Okay. So how to incorporate NEP with professional courses will be a big issue. Now how to design UG and PG courses? The question is how to design UG and PG courses. Well, we had drafted an approach paper which was already submitted to the Honorable Vice Chancellors, I think in the month of December last year, whereby we just suggested a roadmap for undergraduate courses in Assam if it is for the consideration of our higher educational institutions. For example, this is there. It is there in my PPT presentation. I can leave it back for your kind consideration. Well, in that month, we from the government of Assam proposed a UG model, how it looked like, or it is for consideration. We are not, we are not just imposing. We are not just, it's for your suggestion. For example, in the first year, there could be a major course with slight enhanced credit. It will be a discipline-specific major course with enhanced credit requirements. Then measure 2 will be supporting discipline with lesser credits. Then third paper will be elective course, supporting discipline. For example, one may have major in political science but may take elective as music or language, or even a physics student may take for language or political science, whatever. Then we have skill enhancement course, 4 credits, Then we have foundation course which will be compulsory, focusing on the basic, thematic areas that new education policy has talked about: good citizenship, basic laws, etc., environment, basic statistics maybe. So we have skill enhancement course, 4 credit maybe. Then we have a foundation course, as I have said. Then we are proposing an field project of 4 credit. For example, a student may have important expertise. Talking about Himadas. Himadas is a internationally acclaimed athlete. Also to say Lavlina Buragohai. Why shouldn't she be given the opportunity to take sports as a field work? Why Himadas should not be given the opportunity, who has brought so many gold medals to this country? Lavlina Buragohai, who brought bronze medal in Olympics, why should she not be given her area as a community at a project work? So this is some kind of credit distribution. Number 1, measure with enhanced credit. Then measure 2 with lesser credit. Then elective course. Then skill enhancement course. Ability enhancement, that is foundation course. And 4 credits field-based course. So if one student completes this course in 1 year, if he or she leaves, it will be granted some kind of maybe certificate course. But if she continues, or he or she continues next year in the same pattern, she or he will get the diploma. If or she continues in the same pattern in the 3rd year, it will be bachelor, liberal arts, or whatever. Then 4th year with research. As he or she progresses in the 4th year, it will be more specialization, more focus on research methodology, more focus on discipline specific. So one student goes up, maybe in the 4th year, the specialization will come up, and the 5th year will be exclusively for the subject.
All the recommendations are yet to be fulfilled, yet to be implemented. So it's an ongoing process. Policy comes, policy goes, and implementation continues. But the point that we have to, before we embark upon implementing any new policy, including NEP 2020, it is, to my mind, it is very important to massive initiative, and we have seen the fruit of that National Knowledge Commission, basically where it was emphasized that this generation, the country, our knowledge system, our everything is knowledge-based. We live in a knowledge-based society, we are driven by a knowledge-based economy and industry, so therefore, how ICT comes into play in this knowledge-based society. So that is how that comes, that of course, development. The vision, I will not verbatim quote, but then I will highlight the key points of the vision statement. There's a vision statement in NEP. The key point is that this policy, and we say this, to have an India where the citizens will get an India Centric education. This is one key point. The new education policy would attempt to make the education of the country India Centric. I will come to each of these points from its own perspectives. Why India Centric? The second, it says that this policy would try to give the most modern, contemporary, state-of-the-art, technology-based education also. Third, it says that this education policy will see that the education system is made accessible to everyone in the country with equity. That is the word, and access. Equity and access. Why? This is the third key point. And also it says that this education policy will attempt to instill value system in the educational process, values, which is also a very, very important objective of education, value. It is not just knowledge about knowledge and skill, as we would, as academic, you would all agree that education does not entail only subject knowledge, skills alone. It also encompasses values. And that is very, very important. Values can have different sets of values. So this education policy also states that. Knowledge seekers. Right? So it was a center of excellence, globally recognized. Then simultaneously we had some Oriental universities based on Confucius, philosophy of Confucius. Then we had seen the Arab world coming up. Al-Azhar University, it came in 1980, well, relatively recent and modern, but it still continues. Al-Azhar in Cairo is still a functional working university. So these are, why I am referring to these universities, I will come to it later on. But what I mean to say is this: India had a very strong heritage of knowledge system, which we cannot afford to ignore. We have to take a real look at it. We have to see this knowledge, examine this knowledge, thousands of years old, through the lens of our modern understanding of science, technology, and culture and society, sociology. Right? So we cannot, that body of knowledge cannot be just thrown away. So that is one perspective of this IDP 2020. The second is that access and equity. See, 70 plus years we are after independence now. Look at the gross enrollment ratio. It was mentioned that it is just hardly about 23% in Assam, higher education, in the sector of higher education. That means only 23% of the eligible youth who are supposed to be in the higher education institution studying are doing it, and the rest of them are not doing it. They are excluded. Something is seriously wrong with our process of access to the citizens, right? As far as higher education is concerned, we have to do something about it. Access is one thing; it could be physical infrastructure, lack of it, teachers, right? But at the same time, it can be also something more deeper. There could be social inequities, economic inequities, gender inequities, right? So between a son and a daughter, I would prefer the son to go. That is in the mindset. Money is there in my family, but I would prefer that my son should go, right? And at the cost of the daughter. The caste. That is another factor. Certain caste, people belonging to certain castes, even now in India, they are given a second priority so far as access is concerned. But constitutionally we are obliged. It is all reservations are there, but still it is not working, otherwise it would have been reflected in the higher gross enrollment ratio. So something is wrong. So this new education policy also focuses on bridging this gap of inequity and inaccess to higher education. That is another perspective. So we have to somehow do it. We cannot have institutions, higher education institutions, just for the heck of it, with 0% enrollment, with zero enrollment. As the advisor to the minister had just mentioned, there are 200 plus such schools in Assam with no enrollment. Teachers are there. We have to look at the optimal use of resources that we have, both infrastructure as well as human resources. So this is an opportunity so that access and equity becomes possible. Then constitutional values and moral values and other things. That point is missing not only in India. That point has gone out of the scheme of education globally. That is the most important underlying philosophy of the education policy that is being envisaged today. Explicitly, the word liberal art education is not mentioned anywhere in this policy. I have read it. That we will go for liberal art education. But the entire underpinning philosophy of this policy is premised on the philosophy of liberal art education. Now, what is liberal art education? It is not a subject, as I have been emphasizing again and again. It is a philosophy. So we have to understand what is liberal art education. The whole thing started. My major focus of discussion with you for another 20 minutes or so would be on liberal art education only after these perspectives. So then I will elaborate as to what are the basic, the historical perspective of liberal art education, the present contextual importance of liberal art education, why liberal art education now, not only in India, in many other countries, they have embraced. Why? And what is there in liberal art education? So that we have to examine. So, liberal art education not only focuses on giving subject knowledge, skill knowledge, but it also takes into the core of the mission of education, the basic objectives, that is to create through education, to create a human being who is having a holistic, as it is very euphemistically always rhetorically called, holistic development of all faculties of the human mind, including values, not just subject and skill, but also values. The present generation, for our last few generations, I would say, our education system has been completely dealing from the value component of education, and that is why we are getting the best of most intelligent people in the country and abroad also. But then you see some of the, if you visit the National Crime Bureau website, if you go to the National, what is it called? Anyway, I will come to it. In the Crime Bureau, you will see some of the most heinous crimes in the country and abroad are being committed by most literate, most intelligent people. Scam after scam. Scam after scam. Committed by people who are very achieved, who are highly intelligent, but they do not have in their whole psyche, in their mindset, they are totally devoid of the understanding and appreciation of values. That is the reason they are committing this kind of scam after scam. I will not name anybody. Corruption is almost there, all pervasive, everywhere. Not only in our country, every country. So, value has a very important role to play in shaping the human mind, human intellect, and overall human personality. You cannot ignore that. New education policy focuses on that. True liberal art education. Right? Not only corruption, there are certain other consequences and implications of an education which is devoid of any focus on value. Look at those details. Look at the number of people committing suicide. Because examination, whole thing, the education has become almost examination centric now. Education is nothing but examination. You just relate it to your own life. How much of your faculty, teaching time is there? Examination time, question setting, answer script checking, result preparation. The whole thing has boiled down to examination. So there is no space for value. So we have to think about it. This education policy says that also. That is another perspective. And that also includes constitutional value, your obligation, your commitment to your nation, to your own culture, your own society, your own heritage. That also requires an appreciation of value, cultural values. Right? So these are all embedded in this policy. And finally, it says that India must have a generation of students who will be with the latest of technology, science, and other subjects, so that they can become globally competitive. Why? Very briefly speaking, human society, human civilization has evolved through several stages and broadly driven by technology. The first stage is known as the Industry 1.0, and to my mind that is largely driven by the understanding and appreciation and development of a technology called agriculture. Before that, we led a nomadic life. roaming around in the jungles, in the wilderness, in search of food and shelter. Nothing, no scope for any observation, thinking, nothing. Those faculties were shut. Only the question of survival. Then, while doing that for thousands and thousands of years, 10,000 years ago, it dawned on those early humans that some plants can be cultivated, some animals can be tamed, and that was the beginning of, that knowledge was the beginning of agriculture, which really laid down the basic foundation of human civilization. There was a lot of time, there was a lot of time to now look around, think, new knowledge emerged, and it continued and continued and continued till mid-19th century. During which time, this is very recent. So then, you recall in 13th century, beginning 13th century in Europe, we have witnessed the age of Renaissance. Then soon after, 14th, 15th, till 18th century, we have seen the age of what we call the Enlightenment. A lot of new understanding about science, technology, art, culture, starting with Renaissance, has really laid down the foundation for the next stage. Going to the battle to fight in the global competition for all kinds of things. Right? So liberal art education has a very deep connotation. And see, even though Martha C. Nussbaum, American philosopher, said not for profit, why do we need, democracy needs humanities? And this recent book by Roth says that beyond education, that means why liberal art education matters. See, it is not only just for, liberal art education is necessary not only just for, nourishing, sustaining democratic values only. It is also important to develop this kind of mindset of the students so that they can cope up with the change, diversity and complexity of life today. So that they have mutual tolerance, respect for each other. A boy from Korea is working shoulder to shoulder with a boy from China, North Korea, South Korea, at loggerheads otherwise. But they must have their education must be such that they respect each other's points of view, they respect each other's cultural backgrounds, each other's history, everything, so that they can walk together. Multinational, we are working for not government jobs now, we are working for corporations, multinationals. We like it or not, privatization is coming because government cannot take the load of everything. Private-public partnership is a must. So our boys and girls have to be rolled through such an education system where they also develop global citizenship, not just national citizenship, global citizenship, tolerance. Otherwise, why would a country like China also would embrace liberal art education? China is one of the major countries embracing liberal art education. And you know how they respect democracy. It is going to the battle to fight in the global competition for all kinds of things. Right? So liberal art education has a very deep connotation. And see, even though Martha C. Nussbaum, American philosopher, said not for profit, why do we need, democracy needs humanities? And this recent book by Roth says that beyond education, that means why liberal art education matters. See, it is not only just for, liberal art education is necessary not only just for, nourishing, sustaining democratic values only. It is also important to develop this kind of mindset of the students so that they can cope up with the change, diversity and complexity of life today. So that they have mutual tolerance, respect for each other. A boy from Korea is working shoulder to shoulder with a boy from China, North Korea, South Korea, at loggerheads otherwise. But they must have their education must be such that they respect each other's points of view, they respect each other's cultural backgrounds, each other's history, everything, so that they can walk together. multinational. We are working for not government jobs now. We are working for, corporations, multinationals. We like it or not, privatization is coming because government cannot take the load of everything. Private-public partnership is a must. So our boys and girls have to be rolled through such an education system where they also develop global citizenship, not just national citizenship, global citizenship, tolerance. Otherwise, why would a country like China also would embrace liberal art education? China is one of the major countries embracing liberal art education. And you know how they respect democracy.
My point is slightly different. One fundamental challenge that I see is within your existential reality, how do you understand education or liberal education and so on? Because as a principal or as a faculty, much of the structure is given. Curricular structure is given. You have no say in this. And whatever policy talks about in terms of abolition of affiliating system, perhaps will not happen in next 100 years. If you look at the reality, and Honorable Vice Chancellor was telling us in the morning, where will 600 colleges, affiliated colleges go? Will all, how this university, Gauhati University will be restructured is a very, very big question. I have calculated the cost of restructuring. I took 50 top NIRF ranked colleges and on a certain assumption said that so many departments and so on, so many teachers, and the whole cost of restructuring is 12,500 crore. I have also calculated Delhi University. The cost of restructuring turns out to be 5,000 crore. And one may say many things. What is the correctness in the assumption that multidisciplinarity will solve all our problems, will lead to excellence? St. Stephen's College has only 8 departments. That is top college in India. So there are many things, and hours can be talked about on education policy. So I will not go into that. I will only confine to what is relevant from your point of view, whether that is a direction of national education policy or not, may be debated later on. First very important point to my mind is that now whole pedagogy, whole methods of teaching has been so far teacher-centered. How can you make in actual practice, how can you orient your faculty to make the whole transaction student-centered? That I think is one of the biggest challenge. Now, what is the challenge? Challenge is that today's classroom is a very diverse classroom. And today's classroom, perhaps some of you will agree, on an all-India scale, I have estimated from National Sample Survey, there are 46% of students who are first-generation learners. Neither of the parents have been to the higher education institutions. So the diversity also goes along with those types of students which are, whose family is not highly educated. And I have conducted one student satisfaction survey, and there I found that these students have cognitive deficit. That means when they come to the college, they do not have the kind of knowledge that a teacher will expect. Suppose a teacher is teaching first year physics, but he doesn't know. And the basics he may not be knowing. he or she suffers from language deficit. Language is a big problem. How will you communicate? There may be a student from local language, regional language. You might be teaching in some of the colleges in English. They do not understand English. There are many challenges which I came across. So the challenge is, and therefore how do you, and in my survey I also noted that it is not the curricular transactions in the class. I mean, in one college in Tamil Nadu, I found that there were 90% of students who are from BPL families. And they had to do some labor, some work, and then earn, and then perhaps they can think of some education in the college. Perhaps many of the colleges where you are there, the scenario is like this. So under this scenario, what can be done? The message that I got from that survey is that most important thing is how do you, and they are also psychologically not ready. They may be hungry, they may be abused in the family, and they have come to the class. So what is most important is how do you effectively deal with them, effectively engage with them. And let me tell you, how do you give them dignity? These students are first generation learners. They don't have the adequate knowledge, nor the skill, nor the communication. So how do you effectively and with dignity mentor those students and engage with those students? I think that is one of the fundamental challenges. Otherwise, the syllabus is so heavy that even those students who are so-called very good students, it is very difficult to have a mastery. And you know very well what is the number of teachers in your college. Perhaps Assam is better placed. But if you go to other states, you will find that teacherless department, one or two teachers in the postgraduate department.